All right, so this week we're going to cover verbs and verb tenses and some more stuff. It's all English verbs. So I'm sure, seemingly English verbs, when I was going to teach it, I thought, oh, this will be pretty easy. But the challenging part is we speak it well, we hear it well, we write it well, but we don't fully, maybe understand or can dive down into all the vocabulary and different things. We just know it by speaking what we're doing. So um, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about just some common types of verbs: person, number, voice, tense, mood, participle, and aspect. And so we'll go through each of these. And so there's quite a few slides, quite a lot of information to cover. Um, so just let me know if you have a question. So some common type of verbs are action, stative, transitive, intransitive, linking, helping, modal, regular, irregular, phrasal, and infinitives. So we'll break these down one by one. So again, action verb, right? We all know what action verbs are. They're used for action, right? Whether physical actions or something you do, or something an object does, or a mental action, something you do with your brain, right? We can obviously run, swim, help, ignore, believe. And if you use them in a sentence, I work at a factory. The cat chased the mice, or cat chased the butterfly. We listen to the woman's amazing story. So there's some action verbs. Again, we use those all the time. Stative verbs, also called state of being verbs, but again, they refer to conditions or state of beings. Um, when they, describe qualities, states of existence, opinion, beliefs, etc. They do not refer to actions. Obviously, that would be action verbs. And so, some examples again is love, want, own, have. And so, if we use them in a sentence, the mansion has 5 bedrooms. Again, Ellie loves her younger sisters, and my car needs an oil change. So, again, the dead giveaway probably is the state of being verbs. Those are pretty easy to spot. Some of these, like loves, is a little bit harder because it's a um, emotion or a belief. So just know that they're out there. Transitive verbs. So it's just simply a verb accompanied by a direct object in a sentence. And in our nouns, we learned what a direct object is, right? It's the noun pronoun or noun phrase. And action stative verbs can be transitive, so either one. So again, Leonardo ate a delicious pepperoni pizza. Leonardo's the subject. What did he eat? Pepperoni pizza. Right? The wealthy man bought 3 paintings. What did the wealthy man buy? Paintings. And she really hates broccoli. So she is the subject. What does she hate? The direct object again is broccoli. So again, if they have a direct object, they're a transitive verb. Next, intransitive verb. So if transitive has a direct object, then it's a verb. Intransitive is a verb without a direct object. So, right, prepositional phrase, adjectives, and adverbs cannot be used as direct objects. So we see we can have both active and stative verbs can be intransitive. Again, examples, we see airplanes fly. So they're the subject and the verb. We have no direct object. And the children slept while the adults worked. Again, so the first one for slept, the subject is children, and for the verb for worked or worked, the subject is adults. So again, transitive has a direct object, intransitive not use a direct object. Linking verbs. And so it's kind of a subtype of a stative verb. So it links the subject and the subject complement. So it can describe or identify the subject of a sentence or clause, can function as an intransitive verb. So again, some common ones: be, become, seem, appear, grow. So, Mike is a great dancer. That gold watch looks expensive. Suddenly the mall got really crowded. So it's linking something together. Subject, right? Mike is the subject. It links Mike with a great dancer, which is the subject conjugate. Because that gold watch, the subject, looks what? Expensive. That's the subject complement. Again, linking verbs, helping verbs. It's again known as an auxiliary verb. Work with other verbs to change sentence meaning. So it changes the tense of the verb or alters the mood of the sentence. Again, be, have, can, do. And for our examples, so the musician has performed in concerts all over the world. So has performed, right? Both of them. My cat is getting slow in her old age. Again, it's helping the sentence. Cheetahs can run incredibly fast. Modal verbs. Who knew there was a thing called modal verbs? But here they are. So again, they're a part of helping verbs and that used to give a sentence mood. So they express ability, necessity, possibility, or permission. And again, we see the common ones over here: can, could, may, might, must, ought to, shall, should, will, would. Um, so we see once you finish your homework, you may play outside. Again, gives a sentence a specific mood. You're allowing them to do that. Permission. We must carefully add 2 eggs to the mixing bowl. So necessity, right? That would stress necessity. Necessity. Next, I would go to the movies if I wasn't busy working. So that's again possibility. So modal verbs. They're regular verbs. Simply the past tense and past participle end in ed, d, or t. So this is, I'm going to say the majority of all verbs, but it's quite a few of them. Right? Again, obviously, cry, cried, jump, jumped. It adds the ed. Slipped. Sometimes in English we obviously do this, add that extra p. Try. We have to take the y becomes an I. Slept, sleep becomes slept. We had the T. Lend becomes lent. So, and again, we have all these that we're used to. Even on regular verbs that do kind of different things. And Greek will be similar in that fact where I found it frustrating. It's frustrating at times to, you think you have all these endings pegged on the nouns and the verbs, and you go to do it and you're like, wait a minute, they changed the spelling here. And they do, because they have little things like slip and slipped, where they add the extra P. So Greek does that kind of thing too. So just be prepared for it. Right, very simply, he walked 2 miles to the post office. We purchased all of the supplies that we needed for the camping trip. Again, walk becomes walked, purchase becomes purchased. Tiffany had noticed something strange about Marcus's story. So these should be, right down the plate. Irregular verbs. Again, verbs whose past tense and past participle do not end in ed, d, or use the t variant. So we see all those be, am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Again, and this is the same in Greek. They'll all be spelled differently. The to be, eat, right? It can be ate or eaten, kind of past tense, future tense, fly, flew, flown, right? Catch, it can become caught. Either, present, I caught something, or I will catch, or I caught something in the past, past present, said again. Some of them stay the same, so it gets tricky. And Cindy knew all the right answers. So you wouldn't say Cindy know all the right answers, right? That would sound silly to us. The junky computer has given me nothing but headaches since I bought it. Again, so the junky computer has give me or give me nothing. Obviously, that would be wrong. So it has given me nothing but headaches since I bought it. But bought could be either or, right? Because bought's one of those irregular verbs that stays the same, like caught. And next we have the workers took the furniture out of the moving truck. So took, right? Past tense. If we say the workers take the furniture, that would still kind of work, but past tense would be took. So again, it goes T-A-K-E to T-O-O-K. So again, irregular verbs, it's the weird ending. They don't end in EDD or T variant. Phrasal verbs, right? It's a combination of a verb with prepositions and adverbs. And so it's basically you get different meanings from individual words. So you take ask and you take for, right? And and you pair them together, and the phrasal verbs that ask for something, or put up with, or talk down to, right? It doesn't mean you're sitting there talking down to someone or talking down to the ground or anything. It's just, you think you're better than someone, basically. Or lock up, cut across. So these are lots of examples of these that we use in the English language. Right? The frustrated business owner closed down his store. Right? And of course, that would mean, he didn't physically close down, or he didn't physically fold the store up or anything, right? He just shut the store down, done with business. Dad loves to show off his baseball trophies. Again, it's the whole phrase. And my mother told me it is a good idea to put some money away in case of emergencies. Right. So again, it's these phrases that we take a verb and a preposition or an adverb and combine them together to form different meanings than the original verb or words. Infinitives, right? So infinitives are these kind of oddball things. They're derived from verbs and they're identical to the base form of words, but we formed with the word to. So they create infinitive phrases. So they basically act like nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. So again, examples, we see to play guitar in a rock band is my goal. So we see here that it acts here, to play is the whole infinitive phrase, right? And that's how they write it. That Greek does the same thing when we see that infinitive, it's to whatever. And we see that the verb here is, right? But out here it's to play is acting as a noun. Louis is the person to ask. And the infinitive is to ask. And that's as acting as an adjective there. And then the writing in the letter was too small to see. So to see is the infinitive phrase, and it's acting as an adverb. So it can act as all three, depending on how we use it in a sentence. So that was it for different types of verbs. I think there's a question we threw in there about on the test about how, just kind of look through those. It's not a memorize each one of those, just kind of an idea of what each one does. Verbs, person and number. So you just have to know that verbs both have person. They're either in the first person, second person, third person, and they have they have number. They're either singular or they're plural. So this is again pretty boilerplate. This should be pretty simple, right? You'll understand this. Next, we have to notice that verbs have voice. So you either have active voice or passive voice. So active voice, very important. How we phrase this: the subject performs the action of the verb. Right, so they create correct and clear expressions. So the cat ate the food. So if we combine that with passive, the subject receives the action of the verb. And it kind of a more indirect construction. So let's just look at them side by side. So, right, we see the cat ate the food, or the food was eaten by the cat. Right, so here we see that the subject, the cat ate the food, right? And here the subject receives the action of the verb. So the subject is the cat, right? And it was eaten, or the food was eaten by the cat. So the food would have been subject there. So we see here the dog chases the ball, or the ball is being chased by the dog. Again, either it's just who performs the action of the verb. Please remove your shoes before entering my house, or shoes should be removed before entering my house. So it's these little simple, kind of the way we phrase things, the way things are in a sentence. Again, English is nice because you could kind of see, depending on construction of the sentence, where it's placed in the sentence. We'll get an idea of how it works and how it operates in the sentence. But that's what's nice about English. I feel like Greek doesn't do that. The order in Greek sometimes is foreign to us, obviously. So it's harder to tell just by where it is, how it's acting or how it's behaving. So verb tenses. So we talked about voice. Now we're going to talk about tenses. So just simply describes when an action took place, right? In English, we have three main tenses: past, present, and future. Okay. And that's fairly simple. And now again, where is going to get tricky is we're going to add grammatical aspect here. We'll cover it now and we'll also cover it later. So again, we have the three main tenses, past, present, and future, and then we add this grammatical aspect of simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. So aspect, right, is a grammatical category that expresses the temporal view of an event or state, focusing on how the action or state unfolds over time rather than when it occurs. So it's kind of like describing it, if we're talking about something that happened in the past, is it ongoing? Did it cease did it stop? Is it going from that point all the way to now? Um, Again, we use it all the time, but we don't think about it because we just speak, we just write. It's just we're so ingrained in English that we know it. But it is going to be important that we understand aspect because it becomes so important in Greek. When we look at verbs like to save, when we read that passage and we say, well, what is that? Does that mean the saving, Jesus Christ performed the salvation on the cross so that it goes from that point all the way, to eternity, right? So that whoever believes can have eternal life. So that's where you really want to try to understand aspect. And like I said, it's complicated. There's a lot of vocabulary, but hopefully you can go back to this handout, or if this doesn't make sense, if this PowerPoint doesn't work for you, go to some of the slides I'll give you at the end. The Grammarly. Go to the internet and kind of understand aspect, because if you understand it in English, it's going to help you immensely in Greek when you're trying to understand the different aspects of Greek and when something takes place. So we'll go through this. So basically what we're going to do is, these three main tenses, past, present, and future, and then we can have these grammatical aspects, simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. So it makes 12 unique tenses. And so we'll go over this. So, right, and divisions in time in English, obviously we have past, something that happened earlier, present, something that happens currently, or future actions that will happen later. So the simple aspect, right, the simple is the first one. It refers to normal forms of past, present, and future tenses. Doesn't add any information, and it's easy to form. We don't have many rules. The perfect, right, it's used for actions related to other points in time. So it can indicate something that was completed or something that's ongoing. And so some examples, I have played soccer since I was a child, right? We understand that someone started playing soccer when they were a child, and they play it, right, all the way up to now. It's a continuous action from past to present, right? If we contrast that with simple aspect, I played soccer when I was a child, right? That indicates the action that person only played soccer as a child. And usually it uses the conjugation of, right, the auxiliary verb have, and it combines it with the past participle of the verb. So we got perfect continuous, right, used for ongoing actions that happen a while before completion. So again, they are studying all night. Studying lasts many hours, right, before it's finished. Usually you use the verb to be and the main verb's present participle or ing form. Now, perfect combines perfect and perfect continuous aspect, combines perfect and continuous, describes actions over a long period of time. So, it uses a conjunction of the auxiliary verb have and includes the auxiliary verb been, past participle be, so have been blank, and then the present participle, the main verb. So I know that's a lot of stuff. Let's past tense, we'll add this. So past tense, we go simple past, right? Used for actions completed in the past. Just simple verbs. You add regular verbs, not irregular. So you add ed or d. You do have irregular verbs in there. Past perfects, it shows one action happened before another, so it'll be had plus the past participle. Past continuous, right? And it shows an action that occurred in the past. It's formed as was, were, plus present participle. And again, it's used for habitual or repeated actions in the past. And past perfect continuous, it's going to be had been plus present participle. So it describes an action that happened in the past instead of a one-time occurrence. It's often used with words when, until, before to connect it to another past action. So again, so that's past, present, right? Simple present used for individual or habitual actions in the present right now. Root verb, there's no changes except for third person singular, right? It adds the suffix s or es depending on verb ending. The present perfect, have, has, plus past participle. Again, it describes ongoing actions that start in the past but continuing till now. Present continuous, am, is, are, plus present participle. And present perfect continuous, again, you're using that has, have, been, plus present participle. So it shows an ongoing action in the present that was started in the past, right? Something that started back, but it's continuing. And it often kind of indicates this the length of time. Oh. So future tense, when we add that with aspect. So simple future used for actions that have not happened yet, but will happen later. Again, generally it's by putting just will in front of the root verb. Future perfect shows an action that will be completed in the future by a specified time. And again, you use the words by, before, at, or when. So by the time you read this, I will have already left. Future continuous, used for future actions happening over a period of time, shows more certainty and likelihood than simple future. And future perfect continuous will have been plus present participle. And ongoing actions that continue up until a certain point. So it's used with specified time. So I know that was probably somewhat confusing, and you're like I said, blown away with vocabulary. So try not to be. It's just this. Hopefully, this chart makes sense, right? So if we're going reading this chart, so the simple past, I helped my neighbor yesterday. So when did you help your neighbor? You helped him yesterday. Simple present, I help my neighbor every day, right? Help him every day. Simple future, I will help my neighbor tomorrow. Now, perfect past, I had helped my neighbor clean his attic before I fixed his car. Present, I have helped my neighbor too much this week. And future, I will have helped my neighbor 100 times by the end of the month. So you see how it's how, really the verbs is had helped, have helped, will have helped. Continuous, right? We recognize by was helping my neighbor when he brought me iced tea. I am helping my neighbor while he fixes up his house. I will be helping my neighbor next month when he moves. So again, was helping, am helping, will be helping. And then perfect continuous, that combination. I had been helping my neighbor for a year before he finally thanked me. I have been helping my neighbor since I moved in. I will have been helping my neighbor for a year next month. So again, it's I had been helping, I have been helping, I will have been helping. So again, it's these things that we speak and we understand when somebody writes them or we read them, but it's just a name or it's just vocabulary. So I go over this again. I'm a little bit short on time today, but so I'm going to keep pushing forward. Come on. See, it's telling me I'm out of time. So verb moods. So a verb mood is express the speaker's attitude. So it expresses, ideas like probability, doubt, hesitancy. So there's at least three main moods: indicative, imperative, and subjunctive. All right. So we have the indicative mood, the interrogative mood, the imperative mood, or the subjunctive mood, or the conditional mood. So indicative mood. Most commonly used mood in English expresses facts as opinions or facts, right? So we have it's a default mode, past, present, and future tenses. The grass is green. It rained yesterday. I will become a celebrity chef next year. Almost everything you do is indicative. That's similar in Greek. The interrogative mood, it's just a part of the indicative mood used to ask questions. Often it begins with an auxiliary verb, and the main verb follows later. So if we go examples, can you hear that? Why do raccoons eat? This costs how much? So it's a mood of questions, right? Imperative mood. And this will be pretty similar in Greek, used to issue commands, requests, directions, or other similar ideas. Right? We say, usually use exclamation points, run, please sit down, drive 6 miles, and then take the left after the hospital. Again, we'll see this all throughout the Bible. There's a lot of imperative mood. Subjunctive mood, we'll see this in the Bible, although it's very much used in not very used in English. Expresses hypothetical situations, wishes, doubts, or demands. So the important part or some examples are, if I were rich, I'd party all day and night. The manager asked that her staff be prepared for a morning rush. Natalie's tutor suggests that she learn French before moving to Paris. So basically, you'll know this. It's kind of nice in Greek because you'll know a subjunctive is coming usually when they use if. Anytime they use an if clause, or he or that, because it's generally going to be a subjunctive mood. So it's again hypothetical situations, wishes, doubts, demands. Conditional mood, just to use to express ideas dependent on conditions. So it's used would, like, could, should. Um, so again, it would be some examples. I wouldn't do that if I were you. If she could have eaten the cake, she would have. If I were a clown, I would join the circus. So again, dependent on conditions. So it's depending on this, it would do that. So participles. So this is another part of this. Participles are important. Right? It's a form of particular form of a verb with two main purposes. It has an adjective form that modifies nouns, right? Eating otter or swimming otter, or verb tenses, right? It creates perfect and continuous tenses. I am eating lunch. You'll kind of recognize it by INGs. I know that's kind of a lousy way to find it, but generally, if it's an ING, it's a participle. And we'll go through the present, perfect, and past. So present participle used in continuous tenses or as an adjective, adjective, adjective. Yeah, it describes an action that's currently taking place. So again, you had ing. There's some special ones. Um, Again, we see some of these isn't that important, but panic to panicking, tying. Right. We know when we add those ings, we use some of those extra letters. And present perfect continuous. So we use has or have been plus the present participle. I have been working late all week. So have been working is the participle, present participle. Past perfect continuous, had been plus present participle. So the plane had been flying normally before lightning struck the wing. And then for future perfect continuous, I will have been plus present participle, right? So in September, we will have been dating for 2 years. So it's describing the action. And past, so it's used in perfect tenses as an adjective describing an action that's already been completed. So it's key component in the passive voice. Regular verbs, we just add the ed to the end. Again, we have that the special rules on how you spell it for irregular verbs, but we'll go through some examples here. Sorry. So present perfect, right? Has, have plus past participle. They have practiced for this moment their whole life. So past perfect had plus past participle. By the time the cops arrived, their thief had left. And then perfect past participle. I will have plus past participle. I will have gone home when the pizza comes. And then we have these participle phrases. So because it can add like an adjective, it can also create an adjective phrase, and it's known as a participial phrase. Um, so again, some example, we try to avoid the person wearing the clown costume. So you just take that whole wearing a clown costume as the participial phrase. Um, and again, they can also involve prepositional phrases that describe an action or something how it's performed. Walking on the beach, we saw the clown again. So they can act as adverbial, right? It's a non-finite verb phrase. It behaves like an adverb with respect to the rest of the sentence and is headed by a participle. So undeterred by the setbacks, she preserved. So again, that whole statement that's darkened is the adverbial participle. And arriving a little late, I couldn't meet them. Next, we have this little guy. It's a gerund. It's a verb acting as a noun, right? The word describes the action that is occurring: studying, running, fasting. The acts as a noun and can be used in as a sentence subject, direct object, indirect object, or is the object of a preposition. So some examples: Matt enjoys running with scissors, right? So verbs that are, it's acting as a noun, right? So what does Matt enjoy? Running with scissors. So it's acting as a noun in that sentence. Or is the direct object of the verb enjoys, yeah. All right. So this is more on aspect. Again, simple aspect. John fished in the sea. Perfect. John had caught 2 mackerel before the seals arrived. Again, completed action. Ongoing action. John was fishing when the seals arrived. And perfect progressive. John had been fishing successfully before the seals. The end of an ongoing action. See the difference? He had been fishing successfully, but he stopped fishing and then the seals arrived. So it's the idea of aspect is just time. Um, and then here's a chart. You can go back to it. I won't go through it right now, but it just kind of helps you. Sorry, it helps you define aspect or some examples of aspect that hopefully, like I said, you can use. This should be posted on the site. So if you want to go back through here, perfective aspect, right? It includes both simple and perfect. Again, it signifies the action with a sense of completion. So I've has practiced, had practiced, will have practiced. And the imperfective aspect, it includes the progressive and perfect progressive aspects. And it again describes continuous or repeated actions. So is practicing, was practicing, or had been practicing. So that's what we covered: the types, person, voice, tenses, sorry, mood, participles, the gerund. Again, if you need help, use this Grammarly, Grammar Monster, and Bill Mounts. Like I said, I know that was a lot of information. I know again that while we probably, if you're kind of head's a mess right now, or maybe you know all this, maybe I never learned. I don't think I ever learned all this in school to this degree. So, like I said, but even though we can talk and do this, we may not be able to identify it. However, with Greek, understanding person, number, and mood is key when studying Greek. And understand that you're not going to be a fluent speakers or writers, but we have the ability to break down language into its parts. So this stupid thing, hold on. Again, remember, we don't want to make any huge theological leaps. Said we're new Greek students, so when we see something and we think it means this and it's different than what we've learned our whole life in church, slow down, say, hey, maybe I don't understand this well enough, and move forward that way. So all right, so here's a vocab for this week. The first word is, they're all prepositions, I believe. So the first word is epi. Hold on, get the laser pointer here. So epi, ep, or f. In the genitive case, it's used, it means on or when. In the dative, it's on the basis of, at. Or in the accusative, it means on, to, against. Next, we have kata or kat. hath. In the genitive, it means against. In the accusative, it means according to, throughout. So I understand it's somewhat tricky and it can be difficult because in Greek, depending on how it's used, it can change the meaning, as you can see here with whether it's in the genitive or the dative or the accusative. So it's always important to recognize what we learned last week in our Greek nouns class and understand that. Meta, met, or meth. In the genitive, it means with. In the accusative, it means after. U, ook, ooks, simply means not. Me means not or less. Hina, hina, that means in order that, so that, that. Hoti, that means because or that. Gar, see this a whole bunch. That means for. It's post-positive. So what does post-positive mean? Post-positive conjunction is a conjunction that appears after the first words of a sentence or a clause. And un, therefore so. And that's post-positive again. So these, it's one of those tricky things about Greek that, well, it at least initially it drove me crazy, but you'll see these as the second or third word in the sentence, so it's just something you got to get used to. So, even though we translated in English as the first word, it's generally not there in the Greek. So again, we got epi, kata, meta, u, me, hina, hoti, gar, and un for our words this week. All right, guys. That should be it for this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.